of the launching of diploma and certificate programs in disaster management designed and developed in collaboration with National Disaster Management Authority, New Delhi, under the OSOU NDMA web-based training project. I would take the opportunity to extend our thanks and gratitude to everyone for sparing your precious time for participating in this function to encourage and motivate us. Please allow me to brief about the schedule of today's event, as there is a slight modification in it. The program will commence with the welcome address and introduction of the guests by Professor A.K. Das Mahapatra, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Odisha State Open University, followed by the brief introduction about the online diploma and certificate programs in disaster management by Dr. S.T. Rahman. Following this, the programs Diploma in Disaster Management and Certificate in Relief Center Management for Disaster Victims will be inaugurated by the Honorable Chief Guest, Shri Pradeep Kumar Jaina, IAS, Development Commissioner, Additional Chief Secretary to Government of Odisha and Additional Chief Secretary in Revenue and Disaster Management Department and Special Relief Commissioner, Government of Odisha, followed by his address. Ensuingly will be the address by the guest of honor, Shri Anil Kumar Sinha, IAS, retired, former Vice Chairman, Bihar State Disaster Management Authority, Government of Bihar. And finally, the vote of thanks by Dr. Manas Ranjan Pujari, esteemed Registrar, Odisha State Open University. Without taking much of your time, please permit us to start the inaugural function. At first, I deem it a great privilege to invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, Professor A.K. Das Mahapatra, the man of distinct vision and a fountainhead of illuminating ideas, an idol of knowledge and experience and the inspiration to all of us, to please deliver the welcome address and introduce the guests to our audience. Sir, please.
Thank you, Prashansa. Good afternoon to all present online and offline. Esteemed chief guest of this auspicious event, Sri Pradeep Kumar Sena, IAS, and the Honorable Development Commissioner, Additional Chief Secretary to the Government of Odisha, with additional charge of Rural Development Department, and also the Special Relief Commissioner and the Chairman of Odisha State Disaster Management Authority, respected Sri Anil Kumar Sinha, IAS retired, founder, Vice Chairman of Bihar State Disaster Management Authority, who is also our guest of honor in this function. Very distinguished guests and invitees, honored members of the Board of Management, Academic Council, Finance Committee, officers, faculty, staff, students and alumni of Odisha State Open University, my colleagues and well-wishers from across the country and beyond, and from diversified organizations and fields, including the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Punjab Open University and other sitting and former Vice Chancellors of different universities, senior officers of Government of Odisha and the Government of Bihar, representatives from media, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the inaugural function of the launching of one-year diploma in disaster management and a 3-month certificate in relief center management programs developed with this financial support from the National Disaster Management Authority of India. Odisha State Open University started its formal functioning from 10th June 2015. Since then, it has been taking forward the mission of reaching out to the unreached through open and distance learning mode within the framework of the regulatory bodies and the valuable guidance and support received from various quarters, including the Government of Odisha. At present, the university is running 64 programs, which includes 14 postgraduate programs, 11 undergraduate, 8 PG diploma, 15 diploma, and 16 certificate programs. The university has a little over 34,000 registered learners at present who are served through 67 study centers, including 5 special centers open in the circle jails of Odisha. With the addition of 2 new programs today, the total number of the programs will be 66. We are also in the process of adding 14 new study centers, which will take the number of study centers to 81. The university has drawn up an ambitious plan to increase its learner base to about 14 lakh by 2040. Our prime motto has always been to provide access and equity in higher education and to promote inclusive, wholesome education, notwithstanding accessibility and geographical barriers. We encourage Learn and Earn scheme as an integral part of our approach to help the learners. Our efforts have always been to help the state and the country in enhancing the GER. Today's launching of the 2 programs on disaster management is the outcome of the support extended by NDMA and the culminated efforts by my predecessor, Professor Sikant Mahapatra, and the dedicated work of selected staff of Odisha State Open University from the day I took over 5 months back as the Vice Chancellor. Today, we all realize the significance of disaster management more than possibly our predecessors. This is for the simple reason that we face the consequences of 3 kinds of disaster: natural, man-made, and hybrid of the 2. We see directly or indirectly the deviations, the devastations and sufferings of millions caused by disasters cutting across geographical boundaries. Elimination or at least minimization of such loss of lives and property and quick restoration and rehabilitation thus remain the focus of disaster management today. And for this, awareness and preparedness at individual and community level holds the key. Our efforts at the university level, being a responsible organization, feeds to this requirement of creating awareness and preparedness, and also going those who would like to pursue a career in disaster management by taking it to the next level. Odisha has been a role model for managing disasters. The appreciations that our Honorable Chief Minister and his leadership has received from the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, Odisha has been a role model for managing disasters. The appreciations that our Honorable Chief Minister and his leadership has received from the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction for managing disasters so successfully in more than one occasion itself speaks the strength of the Odisha model. In terms of bringing down the number of lives lost and the people getting affected, the state has always done better than expected. This has never happened in the Odisha took a conscious decision and gradually built upon its capability, particularly at the community level. It has successfully started community level warning, built multi-purpose cyclone shelters under the National Cyclone Risk Mitigation Project, and built an early warning dissemination system with last mile connectivity. The capacity to deal with natural disaster has increased tremendously at the community level. If there is a model of preventing large-scale deaths in disaster, we can call it as the Odisha model. The Odisha State Open University will be happy to play its role in strengthening this model further. However, let us listen to our chief guest and the guest of honor today, who have direct and vast experience in the field of disaster management as an authority in this subject matter, as well as in the policy formulation and implementation, being senior administrative officers. Let me have the privilege of introducing the guest to you. We have our chief guest, Sri Pradeep Kumar Jena, with us, an IS officer of 1989 batch of Odisha cadre. Sri Jena has 30 years of work experience in administration. He has worked in diverse sectors, starting from agriculture and natural resource management to rural development, transport, tax administration, industrial development, information technology, science and technology, panchayat raj, electricity, water resource management, and disaster management. He started his professional career as sub-collector of Dharamgarh subdivision in Kalahandi district. He served as collector of Cuttack district during the super cyclone 1999 and was the collector of Kalahandi district, where he had in poverty eradication, natural resource management, and decentralized and participatory development policies. He was the principal secretary of Panchayat Raj and Drinking Water Department, Department of Water Resource, and Department of Energy. Also the Assistant Country Director cum Team Leader, UNDP Disaster Risk Management Program, looking after 16 states of India. Sir, we welcome you to this program, and we are indeed obliged to have you today despite of your very busy schedule. We are also thankful to have Sri Anil Kumar Sinha, IAS retired, as the guest of honor. Sri Sinha was the founder, Vice Chairman of Bihar State Disaster Management Authority in the rank of and the status of Cabinet Minister in the government of Bihar. He has established the ethos of the organization, lending its vision, goals, and leadership. He has extensive experience and knowledge relating to disaster risk reduction, including issues of environment and climate changes with public policy, analysis, and programming. As Joint Secretary in charge of disaster management in Government of India, he has handled major disasters like the Odisha's super cyclone 1999, Bhuj earthquake 2001 in Gujarat, and several others. He was the member secretary, high-powered committee on disaster management set up at the behest of the then Prime Minister. He founded the National Institute of Disaster Management, Government of India at the national level, and International Recovery Platform, UNDP in Kobe, Japan at the global level. In the recognition of his exemplary services, he was handed over the key to the city of Kobe on behalf of the governor of Hyōgo Prefecture in Japan. Sir, we are deeply honored to have you today, and especially when you agreed to be a part of these two programs launching ceremony at very short invitation, because we requested you only 2 to 3 days back, and that shows your greatness. Thank you for accepting the invitation. I'm also personally thankful to our chief guest, Sri Pradeep Kumar Jena, for accepting our invitation. Now I hand it over to Prasansa.
Thank you so much, sir, for your influential message and introducing our esteemed guests to our audience. We are really fortunate to have your leadership, guidance, and support at every step with all of us. Now, I would like to request my esteemed colleague, Dr. S.T. Rahman, Program Coordinator of Diploma in Disaster Management and Certificate in Relief Shelter Management, to briefly introduce the online programs to our audience. Sir, please.
Briefing the background and an introduction of the programs to the honorable dignitaries of today's launching ceremony, I must place it in record that the programs were conceptualized and proposed by the members of the expert committee, which was formed with the academic and professional experts from Odisha State Disaster Management Authority, OSOU, State Relief Commission, universities and members from civil society, recommending the two programs, postgraduate diploma in disaster management and certificate program in relief center management for disaster victims, to National Disaster Management Authority, New Delhi, under the patronage of the former Vice Chancellor of Odisha State Open University, Dr. Shrikant Mahapatra ji, in the last quarter of 2019, that is 25th of October 2019. Then on 1st January 2020, the university was selected and communicated to develop the programs in collaboration with National Disaster Management Authority, New Delhi, after signing of MOU between NDMA and OSOU, scheduled to be held on 6th January 2020 at NDMA Bhavan, New Delhi. Further, the programs were streamlined by the academicians and the professionals as course developers, video presenters, and evaluators within the parameters of four-quadrant approaches of massive open online courses, MOOCs, which is being regulated by University Grants Commission, New Delhi. Subsequently, at the latter part, Postgraduate Diploma in Disaster Management was renamed and nomenclature as Diploma in Disaster Management, complying the UGC ODL regulations of 2020. Finally, in the beginning of the year, that is January 2021, with the joining of the present Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. A.K. Das Mahapatra ji, the programs were refined and reorganized as per the need of the hour, justifying the importance of the discipline as a course curriculum at the international, national, and regional level of education and training. This was finally structured and submitted to the authorities of NDMA New Delhi in the month of March 2021, fulfilling the requisite design and delivery of the programs and making ourselves prepared for its online launching in the web-based platform. Sir, presenting the pedagogy and course content of the programs, the first program, that is Diploma in Disaster Management, has been developed with 8 courses, 32 blocks, and 124 units, and 1,240 questions, which is to be completed in 4 trimesters or 12 months of an academic calendar as a full-fledged program. This program has been framed with the basics of disaster management to the completion of disaster management cycle, that is disaster preparedness, disaster response, crisis management, relief operations, recovery, post-disaster need assessment, rehabilitation, reconstruction, and recovery. Moreover, courses were developed regarding policies and guidelines on disaster management, guiding principles of community-based disaster risk reduction (CBDRR), and application of geospatial technology and ICT in disaster management, capacity building at institutional level, role of civil societies and funding agencies, and various best practices of CBDRR from National Disaster Management Authority, New Delhi. The second program was Certificate Program in Relief Center Management for Disaster Victims, which has been developed with 2 courses, 8 blocks, and 28 units, which is to be completed in 12 weeks or 3 months. This program has been designed with the basics of disaster management at the community level, justifying the significance of relief shelters in emergency management as multi-purpose shelters to the supply chain management for disaster relief operations, including water, sanitation and hygiene, wash, and public health in emergency management. So with this and with humility, I present the brief introduction of the course design and delivery of the program. Thank you all. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening and educating us about the essential features and highlights of the programs. Now comes the most iconic moment of the ceremony, and we feel honored to have with us the Honorable Chief Guest, His Excellency Shri Pradeep Kumar Jena, IAS, Development Commissioner cum Additional Chief Secretary to Government of Odisha and Additional Chief Secretary in the Revenue and Disaster Management Department and Special Relief Commissioner, Government of Odisha. Sir, you hardly need any introduction. You have made all of us proud of your distinguished work at numerous capacities and have always motivated us by being a living example of hard work, kindness, and selfless service to the state as well as to the nation. With that being said, I take the privilege of inviting Honorable Chief Guest to please inaugurate the two programs, Diploma in Disaster Management and Certificate in Relief Center Management for Disaster Victims, by clicking over the launch button. Sir, please.
Okay. So I think here I should click. Okay.
The first program is the Diploma in Disaster Management program. We will play a 2 minutes video clipping which will introduce the program. Honorable Vice Chancellor will introduce the program to our audience. 1 minute clipping will be played. I request my team,
Hello viewers and learners. Welcome to 1 year Diploma in Disaster Management program of Odisha State Open University. I appreciate your interest in this program, which I'm sure is going to broaden your knowledge and understanding on different dimensions of disaster management. The importance of disaster management is well appreciated when we look for avenues to mitigate the unbound and limitless sufferings of millions, primarily caused by natural calamities cutting across the geographical boundaries. Disasters may be natural, man-made, or a hybrid of the two. The United Nations has described disaster as a serious disruption of the functioning of a community or society, which involves widespread human, material, economic, or environmental impacts that exceed the ability of the affected community or society to cope up using its own resources. Disaster management is viewed as the organization and management of resources and responsibilities to deal with all human aspects of emergencies, especially the preparedness, response, and recovery, in order to lessen the impact.
Now, I would like to request Honorable Chief Guest Sir, His Excellency Shri Pradeep Kumar Jena Sir, IAS, to please address the gathering. Sir, please.
Esteemed guest Anil Kumar Sinha sir, whom I have on few occasions I have interacted, and he is one of the legends shaping the course of disaster management in this country. I am very happy to see you, sir, addressing today's luncheon ceremony. It's a pleasure for me to see you, sir, and that too on the launching of a Diploma and Certificate course on disaster management by the Odisha State Open University, sir. Esteemed Vice Chancellor Dr. Arkadas Mahapatra, who happens to be my batchmate in university, and he is also a good friend. Dear Program Coordinator Dr. Rehman and all faculty members, Board of Management, esteemed academicians, luminaries in the field of academics and disaster management, dear viewers, listeners, and learners. It gives me immense pleasure to be part of this launching ceremony, where two very important and critical courses are being launched by the Odisha State Open University. And open universities bring different perspective to the education and literacy literary scenario of the country where people without access or even people with good knowledge base, having lot of resources at command, would want to add to their knowledge base. They get an opportunity through open universities, through their virtual online courses, to enrich their knowledge base. And for those who can't afford regular courses, for them open universities bring a lot of solace. So I welcome and congratulate Odisha State Open University led by Dr. Arkadas Mahapatra and his predecessor Dr. Srikant Mahapatra for conceptualizing and launching these courses in the state. Why it is very important that we should have more and more such courses, creating a huge resource base for the country with adequate knowledge on disaster management is very important. From the point of climate change point of view, you know, the way things are happening, the way natural calamities are increasing in intensity as well as frequency, we now no longer can afford to manage them without adequate knowledge base. To that extent, it's very important. And very recently in Odisha, on 29th of last month, 29th of May, the Odisha Council of Ministers of Odisha government made 3 resolutions, very path-breaking resolutions, where they have said that Odisha, being what it is so far in management of disasters, cannot be allowed to remain complacent and need to upgrade its knowledge and resource base. And for that thing, it has been decided to introduce disaster management in the course curriculum right from standard 8 till +3 final year. So that's the first resolution of the government. And the second resolution is that any government servant at the time of recruitment must have to give a test on their knowledge about disaster management. Means all their entrance examinations nowadays will have little bit of curriculum on disaster management. Third, all government servants in the state, right from the lowest class 4 employee to the chief secretary, everybody has to be trained in disaster management. And most importantly, every leader, every elected representative, right from ward member of a Gram Panchayat to the chief minister, everybody also has to be trained in disaster management. And we are now working out a training module for organizing training program for the Honorable Ministers of Odisha Council of Ministers in this second week of August. So this is how Odisha government is giving attaching seriousness to disaster management. And as all of us know, in fact, just half an hour before, I was part of a British High Commission program on climate change and disaster management. So 3 disasters have shaped the way Government of India and state governments are looking at disaster management. The first one was 1999 super cyclone, during which time Anil Sir had visited Odisha, part of Government of India's Home Ministry, and he has been instrumental in creation of the first state disaster management authority in the country in Odisha. So that was the first marker event in the country. Second was the Bhuj earthquake of 2001, and the last one, the third one is the 2004 Asian tsunami affecting Tamil Nadu. So these 3 major mega disaster events have changed the way governments in central and state governments think of disaster management. And as all of us know, only in 2005 the National Disaster Management Act was brought into action. And I'll just give 2-3 things, talk about 2-3 things in Odisha During 99 super cyclone, when I was the district magistrate of Cuttack, I still remember the first wireless message that I received on 23rd of October 24th of October 1999, saying that one cyclone is likely to hit Odisha. Nothing is mentioned about speed, intensity, path or landing point. That was the technology base of the country where nothing could be predicted. And then everybody knows what has happened. In fact, I'll tell you what happened. When I got this wireless message, I came to Bhubaneswar, 25 kilometers away. I came and talked to the relief commissioner, the then relief commissioner. I said, sir, what do I have to do? Because I don't know what is to be done for managing a cyclone event. He said, nothing is going to happen. You are Cuttack, you are not a coastal city. So cyclone is not going to affect you. Okay, get ready to help others. I went to the chamber of the then chief secretary. I said, sir, what do I do? He said, Cuttack is not a coastal town. So don't worry. Only, okay, now that you have come, please check whatever goods are available in Malgodam of Cuttack and try to keep them so that maybe other districts will need it. That was the approach of governments towards disaster management in 1999. And all of us know what happened. About 10,000 people died and the half of the state was devastated. Of Odisha of 1999 and compare it with 2019, 2020, 2021, the disasters. In last 2.5 years, we have seen 5 disasters, and in last 2 years, we have seen 4. And out of these 3 are summer cyclones. The worst summer cyclone was Fani 2020, May of 2020, 2019 May. Then 2020 May, again we had Amphan, and again 2021 May, we had just got Yas. So 3 summer cyclones in 2 years. So this shows what is in store for us in this country. And within a week's span, we had 2 cyclones, one hitting west coast, followed by next week, one hitting the east coast this year. So this is one part. Second part, if you look at what happened last week in China, last 10 days back in China, 1 in 1,000 years rainfall, washing out a few of the dams, causing extensive damages. And look at the Western Indian flood last week. What happened in Karnataka, what happened in Maharashtra. 235 people died of rainfall-induced landslides and consequent flooding. And last year you must have come across one event in which more than 100 people died of lightning strikes in UP and Bihar. Year before last, there was a report which had published that Odisha had received 12 million lightning strikes in 2019, which was the highest recorded in any part of the globe. The second highest was 10.8 million in Mexico. So now disasters are becoming very intense, their frequency increasing, and their ability to destruct is increasing. And it is increasing because we are now more developed, we have more infrastructure, and they are prone to these calamities, whether they are geogenic or anthropogenic or climatologic. So considering this, we need more good manpower who are trained in disaster management, who know what is disaster management, what are the policies, what are the guidelines, what needs to be done before a disaster event occurs, pre-disaster, during the disaster, and post-disaster situation. And the more important thing is, disasters anyway will happen, and that is in May 2000, Honorable Chief Minister Odisha, after taking over as the Chief Minister in March 5, 2000, 2 months later in a meeting, he had told a very interesting thing. He said, Odisha being a coastal state cannot avoid cyclones. Cyclones are bound to happen, and cyclones are bound to hit Odisha. But does it necessarily mean that thousands of people have to die because cyclones will hit the state? And that is the time when he had called upon the bureaucracy, said, do whatever you like, but I don't want, that is, I am quoting the Chief Minister, quote, I don't want so many deaths due to disasters in the state, unquote. And since then, the state has put in all its efforts in improving the organizational system. A robust organization we have created, OSDMA, along with a robust Disaster Rapid Action Force, ODRAF, and we are the first state to have the State Disaster Management Authority as well as a specialized disaster rapid action force. Further, we realized that 20 battalion of 20 units of disaster response force will not be adequate, and therefore we have now strengthened the capacity of all fire stations in the state. But then we realized that it is again not enough. Unless we work with the communities, unless we train them, build their capacity, unless we develop plans at the village level, block level, district level, and unless we involve the PRIs and women self-help groups in the entire life cycle of a disaster, possibly government alone cannot manage things. And that is why the CBDRP program of UNDP was a runaway success in Odisha, where more than 26,000 villages, 23,615 villages, we developed participatory disaster management plans. Then we assessed the resources of the village, created a pool of young boys and girls specialized in search and rescue skills, another 10-12 boys and girls in first aid, and few elderly men and women as our psychosocial counselors. We build their capacity, we train them regularly, and they are now showing results for us. And then we know that during disaster, it is not BDO, it is not the Tahsildar, it is not the collector who is going to do things at the grassroots. It is the elected representatives, the ward members, the sarpanches, the samiti members. They are the people who are ultimately going to deliver things for you. So there is a need for building their capacities on a continuous basis, and that is what we are doing in Odisha. So what is important in disaster management is to create a large pool of trained manpower who understands disaster in all its parts. They understand the entire cycle of disaster management, starting from preparatory actions to early warning dissemination to search and rescue to shelter management to post-disaster reconstruction, recovery and rehabilitation, and for long-term mitigation. So for all these things, we need large number of large pool of resource persons, and I am happy that the university, Open University Odisha, is introducing this valuable course for us. So a good thing is that we are having a good course, but then disaster management is not about theory. It also requires a bit of hands-on exercise, and I would call upon the university, I will encourage the State Open University to think of collaborating with OSDMA, who can facilitate hands-on exercise at the village, gram panchayat and block and district level for the students participating in these diploma and certificate courses. And we'll be very happy, my organization OSDMA, which of course is a very skeletal organization, but we are quite good in mobilizing resources across various departments and agencies, and we will certainly come to help these students learn the hands-on skills as would be required for them to have a meaningful course. And more important thing now, I was seeing the course plan. You have very nicely packed a lot of things in this 12 months program. But one thing, how do we create good quality disaster managers and planners? In fact, I was, after looking at the course modules, I was thinking if I can work with Gopabandhu Academy, maybe State Open University will work with Gopabandhu Academy and all our Apex training institutes training our state civil service officers as other officers to have a full-time course for which some incentives can be worked out possibly by the state. But I am very happy that this course is being launched, and it will immensely help not only Odisha but students across the country. And yesterday, in fact, I was interacting with a disaster management, a student with disaster management education from TIS, and I am so thrilled to know his passion for disaster management. So I hope through this course we'll create a pool of passionate disaster managers, disaster workers, management workers who can be of immense help to the state as well as the grassroots communities at the time of their need. Once again, I congratulate the university, and I'm sorry I have to speak a little early because at 4:55 I have to report to the Chief Minister's office. We have a meeting with Honorable Chief Minister. So thank you, Arka, for giving me the opportunity to talk fast. I would have been very happy to listen to Sinha sir because it's a pleasure talking to him. He is such a good resource person when it comes to understanding disaster management in all its complex forms and formalities. So I hope the viewers, listeners, students, and the faculty members will get an enriching experience from by listening to Sinha sir. And maybe sometime we can also have a I would organize a program, sir. I request Sinha sir. Anyway, my office would be contacting you shortly. I have discussed with my officers because when I am preparing a plan for training the ministers and MLAs, 147 MLAs, I have to train them. It can't be a long course, it has to be a one-day course. So in one day, I would like some impactful speakers. And I know, sir, you will not refuse me to address them. Maybe virtually, it would have been very nice to physically invite you to organize a physical training, which is not possible now. But certainly, as time passes, I would like you to come and talk to our collectors, our secretaries, as well as our legislators. It would be such a good thing to listen to you, sir. Sorry, today I'm not getting the opportunity to listen to you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your profound words of wisdom that radiated a source of energy within us. We hope to receive your continued guidance and blessings in future ahead. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. Now, I'm profusely elated and privileged to take an opportunity to invite our guest of honor of the day, Shri Anil Kumar Sinha sir, IAS retired, former Vice Chairman, Bihar State Disaster Management Authority, Government of Bihar, who is profoundly well known for his virtuous contribution to the nation and to the world in the field of disaster management, being the founder of National Institute of Disaster Management, Government of India, and International Recovery Platform, UNDP, in Kobe, Japan, to please address the event. Sir, please.
Okay, namaste and good afternoon to all of you. I'm very happy that I was able to hear my old-time friend and colleague, Mr. Jenna. He is one of the brightest officers I have known. So it's always wonderful to listen to him, and especially coming from his experience right now as in charge of OSDMA and Relief Department and Rural Development Department, etc. So thank you so much, Pradeep Jaina ji. I will always be happy, since we have to leave. Let me just say that I am always happy to associate with Odisha, the beautiful state of Odisha. My association, as you know, is not just from 99. You see this super cyclone, even before, and there are personal connections also. But in fact, the Odisha super cyclone was a teaching assignment for me. I learned so much. You see, it was the first major exposure, if I may say, as Joint Secretary, to a major disaster, which happened, which took national proportions, practically. You see, and Professor Mahapatra ji, who is the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Odisha State Open University, Dr. Rahman, Dr. Pujari, Dr. Prashansa Das, thank you so much for the very generous introduction. I'm immensely pleased to see, and it's a privilege and honor to be part of this wonderful historic moment, I would say. You see, I would like to say right in the beginning what has been said by the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Mahapatra, and Mr. Jena, Odisha is leading the country from the front, you see. And I am not saying because I am taking part in a program of Odisha. As you all know, I have myself worked at the occasion to work at the national level, the international level, and then back at the state level as the Vice Chairman of Bihar State Disaster Management Authority. So I know what it takes to really. So I am really full of appreciation, and kindly, Jena ji, whenever you meet your Honorable Chief Minister, kindly convey my regards to him, because the kind of things which he has done, by way of zero tolerance, which has led to your paradigm change, which the whole world is looking at amazement. They are unable to understand as to how a state that too, which somehow or the other is looked upon as not so advanced, etc., etc. I mean, that is the kind of their sentiments, you see, not my sentiments. You see, how can they manage to evacuate 1.5 million people, you see? And when we say people, it is not just people, a word like that. These are elderly people, elderly women, young children, pregnant women, children who are still, having milk from their mothers and all that, all those ages. And then people with disabled, different abilities, etc. How can a state really, in less than 60 hours, because a cyclone gives you typically 72 hours. So administratively, you get just about, say, 60 hours. How can a state and the district administration move, you see, lakhs of people to safer places? You see, you try, I have been in the administration and Mr. Jena has been in the administration whole life. You try to move 5,000 people, you see, and you will see there will be law and order problems. So I think it goes to tremendous credit of the whole state administration and the leadership, including the political leadership. So my lot of regards to your Honorable Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik ji. See. Now, you see, as has been mentioned, I was the Joint Secretary in charge of disaster management in October 99 in the Ministry of Agriculture. In fact, then the subject of disaster management was in the Ministry of Agriculture, not yet in the Ministry of Home Affairs, you see. And then 29th October, you had this super cyclone. And right in the night, you see, 3 o'clock early morning, I reported at the technical area of the Palem Airport to accompany the then Defense Minister, late Mr. George Fernandes, on the orders of the then Prime Minister, late Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, to accompany him for a visit to Odisha. And we went, but then we could not land because the winds were still very strong on the morning of the 30th October. So we had to change our program, and then we were able to land at Bhubaneswar later on. And then the story follows. I don't know how many visits I had to make, but I still remember the kind of scenes which I saw, you see. Because I had the occasion to visit Odisha and the rural areas of Odisha. Half of your state, 14 coastal districts I know, had been affected. And many villages which existed on the map did not exist on the field, you see. They had just been wiped out. And as we moved through those flooded areas, you see, by cyclone water, one could see dead bodies and dead bodies and dead bodies. And if one tried to lift a hand, you see, to remove the body, the skin came out like this, you see. Those were the kinds of scenes which are still, very vivid in my memory, you see. And that is why I say that Odisha super cyclone became the first teacher for me, and I learned a lot, you see. Now, but then I think it's a wonder, you see. It's a ninth wonder or whatever we call it. That, you see, after that 10,000 deaths, as Mr. Jena said, of course, media had its own figures, They would say 20,000, 30,000, whatever it is, you see. But even if we take 10,000, and then 13, 14 years later, you come to Cyclone Philin, and then you come to Cyclone Hudhud, then you come to Cyclone Fani, and then look at the way the state has responded, not only evacuation of lakhs of people, 15 lakh people, 10 lakh people, 12 lakh people, and reducing the human deaths to practically nil, maybe 1 digit, 2 digit maximum. Those lives are also very, very precious. They're very valuable. I'm not at all saying that, how does it matter if 20 people died, you see. They are as important as 2,000 or 20,000, you see. But in terms of, a state's performance, moving towards the goal of disaster prevention, disaster risk reduction, and disaster resilience, I think this is a great lesson to the whole world that, you see, Odisha state has done it not just once, but consistently. You see, 2013, I think, was filing, and now we are in 2021. You see. And now what is happening, a very good part is that recently, when the western coast also had severe cyclones, the state of Gujarat and the state of Maharashtra were affected, then I know for certain that both the states which are supposed to be Maha-progressive kind of states, you see, and Maharashtra also, Bombay is the financial capital of the country, industrial capital, but they were in touch with Odisha government, you see. They were in touch with Odisha Chief Secretary, Odisha OSDMA, just to take, tips and ideas and how did they manage this evacuation, because on their side, it was happening for the first time. And the whole country had seen, apart from the whole world, as to how the government of Odisha had really handled it, you see. So hats off to all the, the Odisha state administration, OSDMA, Mr. Jena and his colleagues who have been working there. You see, I think that's a great. Odisha has in fact set global standards, global benchmarks, which many countries will find almost impossible to achieve. You see, and it is a trend. It's an example which has been set for the whole country. You see, and rightly, Mr. Jena and Honorable VC has been talking of Odisha model. Yes, it is the Odisha model. And since I have had the occasion to work in Japan, and normally speaking globally, we say that Japan is the best prepared. And I can put in the same category now Odisha, you see, because of the decisions which you have taken, because of the launching of the program which you are doing today, you see. It is such a great occasion, historic, auspicious occasion. I can say that in India, Odisha, without any doubt, is the best prepared today. And in coming years, it is going to be the front line, best prepared state from which all other states are going to take lessons, you see. That is you see. So I'm very, very happy that Odisha has become the role model. In fact, I would say that I think Odia people are very modest. You see, earlier also, Odisha has done great work. But then some other state, got all the awards. But then this time, let me say that I will request from this forum and whatever forum, United Nations, which has recognized the contribution of Odisha, to suo moto on its own award the Sasakava Award to the government of Odisha and OSDMA. This is my open recommendation, and I really stand by this. Now, I have noted a few things. When I was in Bihar, I was keenly watching what is happening in Odisha as well as other states, of course. Then I had come to know that in Odisha on 19th of June or 16th of June, perhaps you observe a day for all the school students, you see, when there is rehearsal all over the states and all the school, all the students. And we picked up this idea, this inspiration, let me say, from the state of Odisha. I worked for several months, and I took one is the inspiration of Odisha, an idea from NDMA. You see, NDMA, as many of you would know, was running a National School Safety Project, you see, NSSP. And then we said that program we were also involved in the formation development of that program. You see. But then that program was restricted to only 2 districts and 200 schools in every district. You see, in Bihar, we have 38 districts, like you have 30 districts. And how do I choose 2 districts out of 38 districts? There was no rationale, you see, because we were talking children. And how do I choose 200 schools out of an average of 2,000 schools in every district? So it was a real problem of conscience. And I, with my colleagues, and we had many, Mr. Jena talked of this, Tata Institute of Social Sciences. I had many colleagues. I also have a fancy for Tata Institute of Social Sciences, their students, you see. And I had several of their alumni, working with me, their products, you see, working with me in Bihar State Disaster Management Authority. And then we thought over, we said, look, we can't discriminate between a student, a child who is studying in Patna, and a child who is studying in other corner, in Purnia or Katihar or Betia. So we can't implement this program of NDMA, which is a very good program, but how can we implement in 2 districts out of 38 districts and 200 schools out of 2,000 in a district, you see. So then we worked for a couple of months. We took good ideas and the model from the NDMA project, inspiration from Odisha, let me say again and again. And then we developed a program, called it Mukhyamantri School Suraksha Program. Chief Minister's School Safety Project or Program. We took it to the Chief Minister, we took it to the Education Minister. I had the advantage because in Bihar, the Vice Chairman of the State Disaster Management Authority has a cabinet status, and that is by law. It is not by executive order, that is by law. So anyone who comes, and the members of the State Disaster Management Authority, they have the status of Ministers of State, you see. And we had people like Professor Arya and others, very eminent people in Bihar, you see. Thanks to our Chief Minister also, who has an eye for, going for details and a passion for disaster management, you see. And then we came out with this. And so today in Bihar, you see, every July, 4th July is school safety. It is not day, my dear sir. It is school safety fortnight, you see. We started another trend of disaster safety weeks like earthquake safety week, you see, road safety week, fire safety week, flood safety week. But then when it came to school safety, then we discussed, and the idea was, and the Chief Minister said, एक week में आप एक fortnight रखिए. So today, in all, you see, we have 100,000, 73,000 government schools are there in Bihar, and around 20,000 private schools, 25,000. So around 1 lakh schools are there. In all those 1 lakh schools, all over the state, government and private, school safety program is going on. And then there was further innovation that it should not be only annual event, and therefore now every Saturday is observed in every school, in every class as a safe Saturday. So, but this is based on, let me tell you again, honestly, inspiration taken from Odisha. I have worked, there are ideas which I picked up, which I call inspiration from Nepal also, other countries also, etc., etc. So I am very, very happy that your cabinet, you see, led by the Chief Minister, took this decision some time back, which I read, that every home will have a disaster yodha. I think that is the decision taken by the cabinet. So which means now your state wants to take disaster management to every home. You see, not only every school, every panchayat, etc., which Mr. Jena talked, but every home, and which is very important. I have always been saying that disaster management begins at home, you see. I have seen in Japan, small children, 3, 4, 5 years, you see, when they cross the road, they don't run blindly. They look at the edge of the road, they look left and right. When they are sure that it is safe, then they go to the middle point. They again look left and right, and then only cross the road, you see. So that education begins at home, you see, apart from schools, but literally begins at home. And that is what has to happen if we really want to make our country, totally resilient, you see. I also heard that, you see, Utkal University is also starting this program. So given this background, I am very, very happy, and I want to congratulate everyone, especially Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor A.K. Das Mahapatra ji, Pujari ji, Rahman ji, and all colleagues in OSOU for taking this historic, bold decision of starting 2 courses on disaster management. Diploma in disaster management and certificate course, which is not a usual certificate course I noted. It is on relief center management, which is also very, very important. After all, disasters will come and we can save people. We can save infrastructure also. Till now, Odisha and other states have suffered a lot in terms of infrastructure. And that is why Government of India has taken a very important initiative, I'm sure all of you know, of Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, CDRI, in which around 20 countries are already, recently there was a conference in which our Prime Minister and then UK Prime Minister, Italy Prime Minister, other very high dignitaries participated, because there is realization all over the world, you see, and as Mr. Jain also said, that since there is more and more of development, so there are more and more of losses, you see, economic losses. And we got to reduce that apart from the human loss. And therefore, the infrastructure has to be the infrastructure has to be resilient, you see. As we see, just a couple of things, world is becoming small, we know that. But there are, I would say world is becoming small and also flat. And when I say this, telephone, this mobile phone has made the world flat. Everybody has become a photographer. When I was in the district, DM Madhubani, then we used to go across to Nepal, because that is bordering. And there we used to buy some good camera and come back. And that was a status symbol, you see. And not everyone was able to really click. And today, everyone is a photographer. Everyone has internet. Everyone has all the information. So world has become flat. And that reminds me of a book written by Mr. Thomas Friedman, who was the editor-in-chief of New York Times. He wrote a couple of books. One is called The World is Flat. And the second was Hot, Flat and Crowded. I mean, these are celebrated books. And I would recommend everyone to, these are available everywhere. So kindly read this, you see. So as I was saying, that world is becoming small and flat, but there are larger inequalities, you see, and there are widening differences, you see. Therefore, I think we have got to be inclusive. And I think these kinds of courses and these historic, I didn't know, but I was so pleased to hear when Mr. Jaina said that all appointments in the government, every employee will be tested for certain basics of disaster management. And then all elected representatives. I think this is how you mainstream, you see. Leave aside all theories on mainstreaming. We have heard a lot of theories and lectures. But when it comes to taking practical steps, I suppose today every state in India needs to take this decision. We are taking decision for population and things like that, but I think it is much more important that every child, every woman, everyone in the government service and every elected representative has the basics of disaster management, you see. That is very, very important. And I have taken a lot of time, let me not take much. But of course, I had a couple of points for Mr. Jaina, which I will speak to him separately. But I think he has very rightly emphasized the importance of, the Panchayati Raj institution, urban local bodies, etc., etc. One advice which I like to give to Professor Mahapatra and his team, kindly right from first day, maintain very high standard for your courses. Let there be no compromise. I don't have to tell you. I know Odia people, strive for excellence and you have your name. This is one example. But still, because I have seen these students from TIS and I have seen these students from other, courses also. That is why this thing comes to my mind, that let me just add my appeal and request to you that kindly never ever compromise on the quality. Because you see, when your students go to places for employment and all that, they carry your brand, they carry your name. So I think that is very, very important. You see, so let me, I'm very, very happy once again that Odisha is taking very bold steps. And let me now end by using two slogans, you see. And why I am using, because In the state of Bihar, Odisha, and all these, the whole of country, folk medium is very important. Even apart from formal medium, of course, today social media, etc., is there. But then slogans and good slogans go to the heart of the people. Go to the heart of the masses, go to the heart of the women. And that is very important, that we reach out to every woman. So let me just say, first is about preparedness, and it is very short and simple. Aapada nahi ho bhari yadi puri ho tayyari. Aapada nahi ho bhari yadi puri ho tayyari. A disaster will not cost you much if there is full preparedness. And I think Odisha has already shown this, In terms of human lives, we have to now work further to improve our infrastructure. That is another thing. The other slogan which I am going to share with you is about development, and rather I would say sustainable development. Because we know that these days we are talking of Sendai framework, we are talking of sustainable development goals, we are talking of Paris Agreement, and let me also, before I read the second slogan, let me also say that the first priority in the Sendai framework is about know your risk, which I keep saying that at this moment, if there is some risk around you, behind you, or around you, and you do not know, or I do not know about that risk, suppose if someone is standing behind me to attack me, God forbid. God has not given me, eyes at the back, Then how do I see? So then I cannot really, save myself. I cannot prevent that risk, But if I were James Bond, I'm just taking an example, then James Bond would have an alert system either in this corner or this corner, or if he's wearing a ring, somewhere he'll have alert system, which are the early warning systems as we talk in the disaster parlance. So I think all these guys students who are going to come out of these courses, these two courses, and other measures which you are taking will facilitate in everyone knowing the risk around them. The first principle of mitigation or the first principle of prevention is that first you know your risk, Unless until you know a certain risk, you just can't do anything. I think it is simply too obvious. Now let me move ahead. The second slogan is विकास ऐसा हो जो आफत से बचाए. विकास ऐसा हो जो आफत से बचाए. आफत is disaster, and विकास ऐसा हो जो आफत न बन जाए. Development should be such which protects you from a disaster. Development should not be such which itself becomes a disaster. People will say, how? Let me explain, I also had the occasion to be closely associated with the second disaster, defining disaster for India's history on disaster management, mentioned by Mr. Jaina, that is the Bhuj earthquake. In Bhuj earthquake, 1,200 school children were killed. 1,200 school children were killed. How? Not by the earthquake, They were in schools because it was Republic Day. Please remember, it was 26 January. And the school building and the school walls, fell down on the children who were there to celebrate Republic Day. Now, school is a milestone of development. The second example, let me give, the district hospital in Bhuj that sat down. It just got destroyed, sat down, killing 179 patients, nurses, even doctors. Now, does any society or a state or a country build a school to kill its own students? Or does it build a hospital to kill its own patients, its own nurses, its own doctors? No, never, Development cannot be like that, Development has to be such schools have to protect children, not kill children. Hospitals have to protect their patients and doctors and nurses in the times of disasters rather than killing them. So that is why this is विकास ऐसा हो जो आफत से बचाए, और विकास ऐसा हो जो आफत न बन जाए. और विकास में it is not just, I have taken the example of a school and hospital, but it can be anything. You are at the airport, you see. We have seen how Kochi airport has been affected time and again. Now, if you and I are traveling, airport should be able to save us. It should be a place to protect us. Airport cannot fall down to kill its own passengers, you know. No, not at all. If you are in a mall, it has to protect you. If you are in a sports stadium, it has to protect you, see. So if you are traveling on a bridge, you see, it can't fall down, you know. Today it is happening, but that is not the kind of development which we want to see. So I thought these are two mantras of, disaster management, which we always use, which we always try to practice. And before I end, my last thing is that, let me just say that, to Honorable Vice Chancellor, that as a small attempt of, you have talked of CBDRR and all that, but then I see that, the connect with the community is the most challenging part of it. So a small group which is led by me, we are bringing out this magazine, No Disasters. It is a magazine, it is not a journal. I think universities like you can bring out a journal, but we are not equipped. We don't have professors. We have some volunteers working with us, but I can only request that I have sent this to Shubhra, you see, and with the request to share with the Honorable VC and the Star and others. So kindly share it with all the students and kindly take it to your home. Share it with your family members also, because disaster management must begin at home. So with these words, once again, let me thank all of you for this wonderful opportunity which you have given me. I am always available, Professor Mahapatra. Whenever you want, it will be a great pleasure for me, to come to your beautiful city of Bhubaneswar and Puri and all that. I mean, it's such a beautiful state. I always keep looking forward to the opportunity. So I'm always with you. Thank you so much, and congratulations to you and your team once again. God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing with us the deep insight and knowledge of disaster management, especially the slogans that every home should have a disaster yodha. आपदा नहीं हो भारी यदि पूरी हो तैयारी. विकास ऐसा हो जो आफत से बचाए. विकास ऐसा हो जो आफत ना बन जाए. For this, we hope to receive your continued guidance and blessings in future ahead. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, President Sanjay. Thank you so much. You have conducted the event very well.
Thank you so much, sir. It's the guidance of Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yes.
It's well said that gratitude inspires happiness and carries divine Almighty's influence. Thanking is a great tradition of any function that is organized in any form. So, to deliver the formal vote of thanks, I take the opportunity to invite Dr. Manas Ranjan Pujari, esteemed Registrar, Odisha State Open University, to deliver the vote of thanks. Sir, please.
Thank you, Prasansa. Respected President of the meeting, Professor A.K. Das Mahapatra, Vice Chancellor of Odisha State Open University, Honorable Chief Guest of the meeting, Sri Pradeep Kumar Jena, IAS, Development Commissioner, Additional Secretary to Government of Odisha, Additional Chief Secretary to Government, Department of Revenue and Disaster Management, and Special Relief Commissioner, Government of Odisha. Revered Guest of Honor, Sri Anil Kumar Sinha ji, IAS, former Vice Chairman, Bihar State Disaster Management Authority, officials of National Disaster Management Authority, New Delhi, honorable members of Board of Management, Academic Council, Finance Committee of Odisha State Open University, respected guests, members of civil society, my colleague Sri Sadangi, Comptroller of Finance, OSOU, dear colleagues of OSOU, our partners, study center, coordinators, dear learners, members of print and electronic media. Today is a red letter day for OSOU as we launch 2 online programs in one of the most important areas of current relevance. The courses are extremely useful and relevant, especially for a state like Odisha. 6 January 2020 was the day when we signed the MOU with NDMA. The launching of the project was delayed due to the pandemic. We ran into a lot of difficulties while preparing the two courses. Many of the content writers, video presenters backed out, citing various reasons related to the pandemic. Perhaps those were genuine too. The NDMA was gracious enough to grant the required extension and we could finally complete the assignment. As you can see, it is now being launched on our LMS platform today. Hopefully, the courses will be useful not only for the students, but also anyone interested in this very relevant area like disaster management. I, on behalf of Odisha State Open University, extend our heartfelt thanks to the National Disaster Management Authority for their financial support, which enabled us to take up this challenging assignment and deliver it. We are grateful to our chief guest, Sri Pradeep Kumar Jena, IAS, Development Commissioner and Additional Chief Secretary to Government Revenue Disaster Management Department and SRC Government of Odisha, who despite his extremely busy schedule, found some time to spare for this inaugural function and share his thoughts. Thank you very much, sir. We are extremely lucky to have Sri Anil Kumar Sinha, IAS, former Vice Chairman, Bihar State Disaster Management Authority, as our guest of honor. Like our chief guest, Sri Sinha is also very closely related to the domain of disaster management. It has been an honor to have you amidst us and listen to your words of wisdom. Thank you very much, sir, for your kind presence. The NDMA project ran into a number of bottlenecks, but with the active and direct involvement of our Vice Chancellor, Professor A.K. Das Mahapatra, we could overcome the challenges. We are thankful to you, sir, for your guidance and constant encouragement. We are grateful to you for guiding us and making this program a grand success. Thank you, sir. Dr. Srikant Mahapatra, the former Vice Chancellor of OSOU, had conceptualized the project and took it up with the NDMA, New Delhi, for financial support. He was instrumental in the planning and execution of the two programs. We fondly remember his contribution today. We are thankful to Dr. Mahapatra for his leadership and guidance. A number of people have been involved in preparation of this project. There are content writers, video presenters, and quiz setters. Our staff members have worked hard in terms of technical inputs, integration into LMS platform, and getting it ready for the launch. A big thank you to all. On behalf of the university, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all the guests, members of Board of Management, Academic Council, Finance Committee of OSOU, Study Center coordinators, learners, staff of OSOU, members of print and electronic media for attending this meeting and making it a grand success. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir. There is an end to everything, but we believe that there is never an end, but always a beginning. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your time and patience. We are extremely privileged to have you all here today. We appreciate your valuable time and patience you have shown today. We would like to thank our guests to sparkle our event with their gracious presence. Coming to the end of the day, we formally announce the closure of the meeting. We wish you every happiness, prosperity, and peace. Thank you. Namaskar. Bande Utkal Janani. Jai Hind.